Washington and Lee first admitted women almost 25 years ago, but gender relations on campus are still far from perfect. Rockridge reporter Cameron Steele has been investigating this story and is with us here today.
Thanks, Meryl. A 2009 survey of half of the student body puts W&L's sexual assault rate 2 times above the national college average. I interviewed students and faculty and reviewed the survey data to bring you this in-depth report about drinking and sexual misconduct at Washington and Lee.
I was sitting in a fraternity house in a big room. It had like 3 couches arranged in a U, and I was drunk. I was really drunk. This man, who was a senior at the time, was sitting next to me, and he said my name, and I looked at him like that, and then he just kind of like jumped on top of me and started making out with me.
Lucy Hundley is not the only woman who's been a victim of sexual misconduct at Washington and Lee. A recent school health report shows that 18% of women surveyed say they experienced attempted rape or rape. 25% say they experienced unwanted sexual touching.
I got up and I ran away.
Some students and faculty members blame W&L's culture of binge drinking at off-campus parties, often hosted by fraternities, for the strained gender relations and high sexual assault rates.
Students tell us that one of the reasons they chose Washington and Lee from the plethora of other schools is because of our high-risk drinking reputation.
Most of the interaction between men and women occurs at parties where a lot of alcohol is involved.
The parties begin the week before classes start, when first-year students go to information sessions as part of their orientation.
Where everybody gets together and we lay down the rules, what the expectations are in the hall and everything like that. But immediately afterwards, the dorms just clear out.
The dean of students says first-years must attend meetings in Lee Chapel, the theater, and the dorms from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. that week. But after 10, the upper-class students take the first years to parties at off-campus houses, like Windfall, Humptown, and the Pole houses.
And everybody is getting into the cars, which line the quad with their blinkers.
But we can't control, as a student affairs staff, what cars line up out there and take students away.
Students and faculty members shine a spotlight on sexual assault at W&L. Groups put up posters and flyers, and Professor Melina Bell's class is working on a new sexual assault policy for the school.
That it would have a component that dealt specifically with W&L culture and what seems to make us twice the national average when it comes to sexual assault.
The high-risk off-campus drinking continues throughout the school year. Traveler, W&L's Safe Ride program, provides transportation to and from the parties. Some people criticize this university taxi service for encouraging irresponsible drinking and dangerous social situations.
And if I have to make a choice between enabling, which I wouldn't agree that is occurring, but if I have to make a choice between enabling bad behavior or seeing people die, I'm going to choose the former.
About 90% of W&L students join fraternities and sororities. Those fraternities usually provide the alcohol at off-campus parties.
Part of the problem, I think, is that the socialization takes place on male territory, right? It all happens under the control of men.
But W&L's Interfraternity Council says it's an individual choice to drink alcohol at the parties.
I don't think the Greek system specifically has a correlation to how much we drink.
Others criticize W&L's historically male-dominated campus as both a contributor to sexual misconduct and as one of the reasons women don't report assault. And Hundley worries most about first-year women.
I just know that it's not a safe place for them.
The university is so concerned about the high sexual assault rate that it is taking major actions to address how sexual assault cases are reviewed on campus.
Cameron, those percentages seem really high. How can something like this happen at a school so small where everybody knows everybody?
That's a good question, but really that's the problem. About 90% of rape, they're acquaintance rapes. That means the victim knows her assailant. And so that sort of nullifies the argument that a sexual assault can't happen on small campuses. Really, students that I interviewed during the process of reporting on this story indicated that they believed that the fact that everybody knows everybody here, that actually enables rape to occur at W&L.
So what's being done to solve the problem, and can it be solved?
You know, I don't know if it can be solved, but certainly now more than ever before, groups on campus like 1 in 4, the male group that focuses on sexual assault at W&L, SPEAK, their female counterpart, and COOL, which is Knowledge Empowering Women Leaders, which focuses on women leadership at W&L, and then Professor Melina Bell's class, they're all talking about sexual assault, raising awareness about the issue. And dialogue is definitely the first step towards a solution. It's not the solution, but it's definitely the first step. I'd encourage the community to come on December 9th to a sexual assault forum. What that is Professor Bell's class is presenting all of the information they've gathered in their sexual assault workshop about rape at W&L and presenting that to the community, and then asking those students, faculty members, and the community at large to give feedback on what they think a good policy would be for sexual assault at W&L.
Well, thank you, Cameron, for this investigative story.
Thank you.